So this is the first video to accompany Chapter 2 of the SPARC Technical document, and the purpose of this video is to show you some of the navigation techniques available in Storyline. There's two main ways that you can access the slides that you're working on. One is called Slide View and one is called Story View. I'm currently open in Slide View. I'm going to click over to Story View so you can see how it changes. And on Story View, we have access to review all of the slides in our document. And down here in the lower right-hand corner, similar to numerous other software programs you might have access to, we can control the size of this screen so we can minimize pretty small and see all of the content in there. Another thing that we can do from this perspective is, if you notice up here, there's a little arrow. I can collapse all of the different scenes that are in my story. Now, this is the LMS version of the SUNY SPARC, and the HTML version, these interlink and you can see the connections. There'll be a little arrow that shows one to the other. And right here we have a little red flag, and that just tells us what our starting scene is. So if you're usually using Articulate to go from one scene to the next automatically through the navigation that you build, by letting Articulate know which is your starting scene, it's a good place, it's a good marker to identify things. So you can easily change that. If we want a number 2 to be that, we can click over here, and right up here we can designate the starting scene, and that changes it. And if you notice, that automatically shifted that around. So as you change hierarchy, you'll notice that this area moves around a little bit. And again, to get back out, we're going to double click this. And in this case, scene 1, and we should let you know that Articulate has individual slides, and when we have a cluster of slides together, we call it a scene. You might think of that as a chapter or a module, but scene is what Articulate calls these groupings. And you can create a new scene just by clicking this up here, and all of a sudden we have a new scene. It's designated the default background, and we're ready to go. We can start adding slides right there, but we can also just right click, we can delete, we can make that go away. So in scene 1, we have slides that go one to the next, all in an order. And you can see that these little tiny arrows that let us know. We can see that this one goes from here and that one goes backwards. The little red arrows let us know which way we're going. Let's go back up here so you can see those navigational things. That those are all things that we've built in. In this case, module 2 of SPARC, we have a different branching. So from this slide here, somebody can go from can end up on any of these individual slides. And so that's just showing us all of these things. This slide can go to the stalking definition, to the harassment definition, relationship violence definition, sexual assault definition, to the final end quiz, or backwards by hitting the back button to the interpersonal violence definition. So those are the main things that we have access to in Story View. It's a really good way to see the bigger picture of things and how things are coming along. The last little bit that I want to talk about are the slide properties right here. The navigation and gestures, you can turn these on and off. All of the slides that you add in Articulate will automatically add the preview or the previous and the next button, and that will show up in the player. In this case, because it's the LMS and I want to control how people navigate, I turn all of those off, and you can actually highlight several slides at a time. I'm holding down the shift key while I'm clicking here, and I can add on a next button, or I can take that next button away. That might be a little extra that you need right now, but you might want to come back to that later. So let's look at slide view. I have a couple of slides already open. So the way that we can get a slide to open in slide view is just choosing one at random. Let's say we want to look at this slide right here. I'm going to double click it. And now we open up into slide view. On the very left of this screen, I can see that whole scene that slide is a part of. If I want to jump to a different module or a different scene, as Articulate calls them, I can click one of those right there. I can go to any other slide that I want to. Sometimes you want to work on different slides that are similar. I'm going to close this one. It's just like a web browser. I have a couple of slides that are already open because they have some similar layouts. This one is in scene 4. This one is in scene 3. This one is in scene 1. And they all have a video, and this box behind the video, they all have a next and a back button. And so sometimes when you're working on stuff and you're at the same point on slides, you can quickly go through them and add things. Like right here, I've got a line here. We'll talk about this in a later chapter where it lets us line things up. So I might say I want all of the videos to be exactly lined up on this line at the bottom. And now I can click through a bunch of those slides. To open a lot of slides, you always need to go back to story view. So if I want to open up this video, I'm going to open up that one. I'm going to come back to story view and I'm going to open up this video. If I click over here, you're going to notice that it's just going to go back to that one. It doesn't open an additional tab. So other things that we access through slide view, we're going to talk about all the tools in another video, but things that you want to notice that you have access to in slide view. Right now we have access to slide layers. We're going to talk about the base layer and the slide layers in another video. So we're going to come back to this little gray area. I do want to show you that you can move these things around. So sometimes you're working with a slide that has a lot of layers and it's really helpful to have access to visualize all of those. And this up here is the triggers panel. So all of the things, and this is actually a good slide to show you, all of these buttons have a trigger. A trigger is what Articulate Storyline, it calls kind of its coding, its action plan. So if I want to add an action of some kind, whether it's a visible one to the user or not so visible to the user, it's all going to come through this trigger panel. And I can see all of the triggers that are built onto the objects in this slide. The last part that's down here is something called the timeline. If you've ever noticed anybody or observed anybody editing video, you'll notice that they always have something that looks similar to this. So every object, and I can also control this the same way. Every object on the screen, right here, I have the terms menu title of the slide open, and you'll notice it's highlighted down here. So every single image, every single object that is up here on the slide has something down here in the timeline that is all connected. Sometimes you group things, and I can collapse and make smaller some of those things, expand and collapse. And I have access to all these things. So where might you want to use some of those things? So in this case, we have a video and we want the student to watch the whole video. So here's where timeline helps us out. If you'll notice, here's my next button. And the next button doesn't appear until the video is almost complete. So that means that the student's not going to be able to move forward through this slide until they have access to that next button, which is time to come up. The video ends at about 27.5 seconds, and the next button is right there. I can just grab that edge and I can put it exactly where I want it to go. Other things that are sharing this space in this panel are the states area, which we're going to again talk about in another video, but if you want a button that changes colors to show that somebody has completed something, this is where you're going to do that editing. And there's also a note slide, and this is nice if you're sharing the work on the customization of SPARC with another person. You can leave notes here. Sometimes I will put the script from the video in the notes section. So there's a lot of, you know, it's kind of the sky's the limit how you want to use that space, or you don't have to use that space at all. But similar to PowerPoint, when you have the ability to print slides, or you can print slides with notes, you can export from Articulate Storyline into a Word document, and you can choose whether or not to send the notes section. So I'm just going to drop that one in there in case you're thinking down the line where you might want to use this in other ways. That's another possibility with the notes section. So that is slide view. And this is story view, and that's the beginning of learning how to navigate and Articulate Storyline.